Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what the single most powerful word in the entire Hebrew language might be when it comes to pulling money into your life? I am not talking about a memorized prayer. I am not talking about some blessing you might hear chanted inside a synagogue on a holy day. I am talking about one single word, just 7 letters long in Hebrew, that has been quietly used by Jewish families for centuries upon centuries to awaken a flow of wealth that most ordinary people could not even begin to picture in their wildest imagination. And in the minutes ahead, I am going to show you exactly what that word is, how to write it down with your own hand, and precisely where inside your wallet it needs to be placed so that money begins multiplying, noticeably and undeniably, inside of 72 hours. For more than 4 decades, I have devoted my life to the sacred pages of the Talmud and the deep mystical layers of the Kabbalah. My grandfather served as a respected rabbi in the old stone streets of Jerusalem. His father before him taught and prayed and guided his community as a rabbi in pre-war Poland. The knowledge I am opening up for you today has lived inside my bloodline for 7 unbroken generations. And I want to be very clear with you right from the beginning. What I am about to share is not something you are going to stumble across on a bookstore shelf. You will not hear it taught from the pulpit of any church. You will not find it slipped into any self-help seminar. You will not receive it during any meeting with a financial planner wearing an expensive suit. This is sacred knowledge, handed from one rabbi to the next, from father to son, through 3,000 years of silent preservation. And here is what makes this particular moment different from any moment before it. I have decided, after years of careful reflection, that this knowledge has become far too urgent to keep locked away any longer. The world around us is in a kind of crisis that most people can feel in their bones even if they cannot articulate it. In just the last several weeks, we have watched inflation numbers shake economies from one continent to another. We have watched layoffs ripple through industries that once seemed untouchable. We have watched ordinary people lose the savings they spent decades building almost overnight. The markets have been shuddering. The grocery bills keep climbing higher every time you walk out of the store. Wages, meanwhile, refuse to budge. And the average honest, hard-working human being feels squeezed from every possible direction at once. But here is the truth. The financial world will never be comfortable telling you. Money has a spiritual dimension, and if you continue to ignore that dimension, no amount of budgeting spreadsheets, investment portfolios, or brutal hours of overtime will ever be enough to set you free. The secret I am about to reveal is so potent that I have personally watched people move from complete financial desperation into unexpected windfalls in less than a single week. Not in months, not in years, in days. But you absolutely must remain with me through this entire video, because if you miss even one single detail, especially the warning I share toward the end, this practice will not work for you. In fact, handled the wrong way, it could work against you. So stay close. Let me carry you back to the place where all of this first entered my life. I was 14 years old. It was the quiet evening right after Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the entire Jewish calendar. My grandfather called me into his study. I can still close my eyes and bring back the scent of that little room, the old leather of the book spines, the faint trace of candle wax hanging in the air. He had a private leather-bound journal that he always kept hidden away in a locked drawer, and on that particular evening, for the very first time, he opened it right there in front of me. He looked at me with those eyes that seemed to reach straight past the surface of a person, and he said a sentence that has stayed lodged inside my chest ever since that night. He told me that the word you write ends up shaping the world you live inside. At 14, those words meant almost nothing to me. But then he began turning the pages of that journal, one after another, showing me Hebrew words written in careful ink, each one accompanied by handwritten notes about its spiritual properties, its energetic frequency, its connection to the mystical tree of life that the Kabbalists have been mapping for centuries. He explained something that modern science is only now beginning to hint at through quantum research, that words carry real energy, not in some poetic metaphorical sense, but literally. The vibration of a word, when it is written with genuine intention, can alter the energy field around any physical object it touches. And then he pointed to one specific word. He circled it carefully with the tip of his pen. He told me this was the word for the wallet. This was the word that opened the gates. Now, before I go any further, I want you to understand something. Everything I am unfolding for you in this video is only the beginning of a much deeper system. If you are genuinely serious about weaving these ancient Jewish wealth principles into the fabric of your daily life, I wrote a book called The Ancient Wealth Code. Inside, you will find the complete system laid out in full, all 10 of the principles that Jewish families have quietly used for 3,000 years to build wealth, protect wealth, and pass wealth down through generation after generation. This is not philosophy. This is the practical playbook. You can find it right now in the description below and pinned as the first comment. Go claim your copy today, because knowledge without action leaves you exactly where you started. I want to be honest with you. I did not use the word right away after my grandfather showed it to me. I was young and skeptical, even though I deeply loved and respected him. But years later, when I was 26 and struggling so badly I could barely scrape together my rent, I remembered that evening in his study. I remembered the word he had circled. I found his journal, the one he had placed into my hands before he passed away, and I followed his instructions to the letter. I wrote the word on a small scrap of parchment. I placed it in my wallet exactly as he had described. Within 3 days, my phone rang, and on the other end of the line was an opportunity that permanently changed the entire trajectory of my financial life. It was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was the activation of a spiritual law that has been quietly documented for thousands of years. From that day forward, I committed myself fully to studying these teachings. I went deeper into the Talmud. I went deeper into the Zohar. I went deeper into mystical texts most people have never even heard whispered. And I discovered that this single practice, the writing of one specific Hebrew word and the placing of it inside your wallet, is only the shoreline of a vast, deep ocean of wisdom that the Jewish people have guarded with their lives for millennia. Here is why this has remained hidden from so many for so long. The Talmud teaches that sacred knowledge is only to be handed to those who are prepared to receive it properly. For century after century, these teachings were kept tightly within the community, shared only inside private study circles, only among those who had proven their integrity and their seriousness. But we are living inside extraordinary times now. The world is aching. And I believe with my whole heart that if you have somehow found your way to this video today, it is not some random accident. You were meant to hear this exact message on this exact day. If you are ready to activate this ancient wisdom inside your own life, I want you right now to type into the comments the words, "My abundance is activated." I read every single comment personally, and I want to see hundreds of these declarations before we move another step forward. Do it now. Let me tell you what I already know about you without ever having met you. You work hard. You probably work harder than almost anyone in the room around you. You wake up every morning and you grind. You do the things you are supposed to do. You pay the bills that arrive. You try to save a little. You try to move forward an inch at a time. But no matter what you attempt, it feels like there is some invisible ceiling pressing down on your head, some unseen force that holds you at a certain level and refuses to let you rise past it. Every time you finally start to gain a little ground, something happens. A car breaks down. A medical bill arrives in the mail. A family emergency erupts out of nowhere. It feels almost as though the universe is playing a cruel and personal game with you, handing you just enough hope to keep pushing forward, but never quite enough to break all the way through. And the advice you hear everywhere makes it worse. Just work harder, they tell you. Just save more. Just cut your spending. Just invest in the stock market. As if you have not already tried every single one of those things. As if the real problem is that you are somehow lazy or unintelligent. You are neither of those things. The real problem is something far deeper, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your work ethic or your mind. The system most people operate inside was never built for you to win. It was designed to keep you moving in a circle of earning and spending, working and consuming, always reaching but never actually arriving. I watch this pattern play out over and over again. People walk into my life after they have already exhausted every conventional route. They have read the books. They have attended the seminars. They have followed the loudest voices on social media. And for a short while, some of them even gained ground. But then they slammed into the same invisible wall all over again. And the reason is embarrassingly simple. Every one of those modern methods deals only with the visible physical surface of money. How much comes in? How much goes out? How much sits in an account? But none of them address the spiritual layer underneath. And the spiritual layer is exactly where wealth is born in the first place. The Talmud teaches that livelihood and sustenance are decided from above, and the effort we put in down here on earth is simply the container through which that decision takes physical form. What this means is that before money ever lands in your bank account, before the opportunity ever reaches your doorstep, before the phone call ever comes, a spiritual decision has already been made in a realm above the visible one. If you are not aligned with that spiritual reality, it does not matter how many hours you put in. The flow stays blocked. You have been told your whole life that money is strictly logical, strictly mathematical. That is a lie dressed up as sophistication. People who prosper consistently across generations are not always the most brilliant or the most driven. They are the ones who understand the unseen laws of abundance and arrange their lives in harmony with those laws rather than against them. The Jewish people have understood this for thousands of years. That is why, despite being one of the smallest populations on the planet, despite facing exile and persecution in nearly every century of recorded history, Jewish families have rebuilt wealth again and again across centuries and continents. It is not genetic. It is not luck. It is transmitted knowledge. Here is the universal truth underneath all of it. The Kabbalah teaches that every single letter of the Hebrew alphabet is not merely a written symbol. Each letter is a living channel of divine energy. When those letters are combined into words, they generate specific energetic patterns that interact with the very fabric of reality. The ancient rabbis understood this and codified specific words for specific purposes. Words of healing, words of protection, and yes, words of prosperity. When you write one of these words with correct intention and place it in the correct location, you are opening a channel through which divine abundance is able to flow down into your physical life. Now, I want to walk you through the exact method. Before I do, understand that this is not a game. This is not something to experiment with once and then forget about. Real spiritual forces begin to move when this practice is activated properly. The word you are going to write is parnasa. In Hebrew, it is a short word, carrying within its letters the meaning of sustenance, livelihood, and prosperity. But in the Kabbalistic tradition, parnasa is far more than a simple noun. It is a key. Each of its letters connects to a specific sephira on the tree of life. One letter opens the mouth of creation, the power of divine speech. Another connects to the head, to consciousness itself, the mental framework through which we perceive abundance. Another connects to faithfulness and endurance, the ability to sustain wealth across time. Another connects to support, the divine infrastructure that holds reality in place. And the final letter connects to the breath of the Creator, the animating force of all life. When you write those letters together in sequence, you are not merely writing a word. You are building a spiritual antenna that draws the energy of sustenance into the object that holds it. Now gather what you need. You will need a small, clean, white piece of paper or parchment. Do not use lined paper. Do not use colored paper. Clean and white. The piece must be small enough to sit comfortably inside your wallet without heavy folding. Use a pen with black or dark blue ink. Never use pencil, because pencil carries no permanence, and permanence is essential to this activation. You will also need a single grain of sea salt. not ordinary table salt. In Jewish tradition, salt represents an eternal covenant. Placing one grain alongside the written word seals your intention the way the ancient temple offerings were sealed. Salt also purifies. If your wallet has been soaking in energies of lack and debt, that one grain begins cleansing it immediately. You will need your wallet itself, fully emptied, cleared of old receipts, expired cards, and forgotten clutter. Clutter in the wallet mirrors clutter around your finances. And finally, you will need your breath, because in Hebrew the word for breath and the word for soul share the same root. And when you breathe intentionally onto an object, you infuse it with the very fabric of your soul. Here is the procedure. Sit in a quiet place before sunrise if possible, with no food or drink in your stomach yet. Take 7 slow, deep breaths, because 7 is the number of completion. With your right hand, which sits on the column of mercy and generosity in the tree of life, pick up your pen. Before writing, declare quietly, I open the gates of Parnassa. I am a vessel for divine abundance. What flows to me flows through the eternal covenant. Now write the words slowly, letter by letter, visualizing warm golden light flowing from your hand through the pen into each stroke. Once the word is written, place the single grain of sea salt directly in the center of it and say, I seal this covenant of abundance. My sustenance is eternal, unbreakable, and ever-flowing. Then bring the paper close to your mouth, roughly 3 inches away, inhale deeply through your nose, and exhale slowly through your mouth across the paper 3 separate times. See your breath as golden light activating every letter. Carefully fold the paper only once, with the grain of salt enclosed inside, and slide it into the innermost compartment of your wallet, as close as possible to where your largest bills sit. Close your wallet. Press it firmly against your heart with both hands. Hold it there for 30 full seconds and say, Blessed is the source of all abundance. I receive my sustenance with gratitude, with faith, and with an open heart. So it is, and so it shall be. Then place your wallet in your pocket and go about your day. Do not open it to check on the paper. Do not show anyone. Do not speak of it for at least 72 hours. Silence is part of the seal itself. The Talmud teaches that blessing resides only in that which is hidden from the eye. Within the first 24 hours, expect subtle shifts, a lightness, an unexplained optimism, small coincidences that catch your attention. Within 3 to 7 days, expect tangible results, unexpected income, forgotten refunds, opportunities surfacing from directions you never predicted. Within 30 days, your relationship with money will have transformed at a foundational level. But 3 warnings. Never perform this practice with greed or malice in your heart, because the energy you embed reflects your true intention. Never remove the paper before 40 days have passed, because 40 is the sacred number of complete transformation across Jewish tradition. And never allow another person to handle your wallet during this window if you can avoid it, because your wallet has now become a sacred vessel carrying your personal covenant. Now go. Prepare your paper tonight. Perform the ritual tomorrow morning before the sun rises. Watch quietly over the next 72 hours as the first signs begin to arrive. And when they do, come back down into the comments of this video and tell me exactly what happened, because your testimony may be the very spark another weary soul needs in order to begin. Subscribe, turn on your notifications, and I will meet you here again next week with the next teaching from this ancient tradition.